We're going to start from there. All right, what's up, everybody?
What's up?
Welcome to the Better Together podcast. Yo, dude, I like the fact that you're screaming in this. That's cool. Everyone just shuts off the podcast.
Everyone's just like, yo, this is already, it hurts my ears. I'll listen to the next guy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Better Together podcast. Like I said before, this is my friend, Jake Roque.
Aloha.
Jake, I'm excited to have you on this. I'm very excited about this because I was just talking to you about this, but I finally feel like I can talk because when I shoot these podcasts, a lot of the times I'm talking to my guests and I feel like I can't talk about the topics I want to yet because I just love conversation. So it's usually just small talk in the beginning and I hate small talk, but you're somebody that is very good at like getting deep in the mind. And the one thing I want to just let everybody know about Jake is, first off, you are a minimalist. Well, you're somewhat a minimalist.
Yeah. I am inspired by people who are minimalists.
Yes.
Let's say.
And you're an athlete. You are studying your master's in psychology, and you're a content creator. Yeah. And you're an artist too, dude. You create awesome music. I was watching a bunch of your music videos and your covers, and bro, oh my effing gosh.
Thanks, man.
Dude,
I appreciate it.
Effing sick. So I just want to jump into this because I really want to let everybody know, the pressure's on right now, but I want to let everybody know anytime I talk to you, I learn a lot from you. I appreciate all my friends. All my friends have different gifts, but one of the gifts that you have is that whenever I leave a conversation with you, there's always something valuable that is left on the table after the conversation.
Bro, I feel the same way about you, by the way.
Really?
And I also feel even in maybe even more than that or differently than that as well. I feel like my spirit is energized when I hang out with you. You know what I mean? Like I feel like
I hate words of affirmation, by the way.
Yeah, but no, it's cool.
No, I appreciate that,
for real.
Bro. Seriously.
Anyways, not to cut you off.
No, bro, this podcast is about
podcasting.
You. This is about you. I need to shut up. I'm just excited. The thing for me, like I said before, I want everybody to know, you're going to learn a lot in this podcast and his mindset.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too.
I hope so. We'll see.
On, but I want to start on this and just jump into it. And this is, I want to talk about minimalism and how you've invested your life into it. And I have a lot of questions about it because you've obviously you made a big jump in your life from switching from something that is so, I don't know. We live in LA and there's a lot of our lives are consisted of how many things do we have, how many things can we show off or whatever, and you're somebody who's like, F it, I do not care about any of it. I care about my future and that's what I'm working on, so I'm going to sacrifice all these other things so I can work on what's most important for me. So I want to start off with this first question, which is, what triggered your personal journey to switch from a life of comfort to minimalism?
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I think that there's a number of reasons, I would say, but one of the primary reasons actually comes from finding it to be a useful tool in regards to anxiety, and oftentimes depression and anxiety go together, of course. But there's a lot of different reasons why it's useful, I guess. And so one of them at first is that a lot of times I have felt anxious about things that when I do feel anxious about things I need to get done, or even worse than that is a broader anxiety of towards life. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, and on different levels and different capacities. Everybody understands what it's like to be anxious. Some people more so, some people less so. But for me, it was useful when I was anxious about my generally, not about something specific to deal with. Was just to find the things that I could recognize what things that stood out to me that I would prefer to be different, and so one place that was, I'm a big believer that the state of your room is oftentimes very similar to the state of your life as a whole. And so where it started for me was just looking around my room and being okay, what sort of stuff is presenting itself to me as things that I want to change, that I want to make better, want to get rid of, is where it goes towards with minimalism. And so I find honestly that the less stuff I have, the less anxious I am in a way. And so to an extent, of course, the less stuff I have that I don't need, the less anxious I am. Because what's great about when you start to get rid of the stuff that you don't need is that the stuff that you do need is accessible. You know where it is. It like everything that you have serves a purpose, and then you can like get rid of things that you don't need, especially from a more like materialistic perspective. A lot of people buy stuff like really, really impulsively, and for me, yeah, another aspect of it for me is that I feel like I grew up as someone like not having a lot of money, which the benefit of that is I became very accustomed to like being like, oh yeah, I actually don't need that because I've never had it my whole life. Wow. You know, so like if other people like the things that people think that they need, it's like, yeah, I've never had that, so I don't feel like I need that. And the benefit of that, if you are somebody who grew up in that sort of situation, like kind of accustomed to having less than the people around you, the benefit of it when you're on your own is that this like baseline, like where I live now, the way I live now with like the things that I have, it feels like to me relative to what I grew up with, like I feel like I'm living in luxury, dog.
Dude,
like
it feels, looks like it too.
It feels really nice. Yeah, and you know, it's not so bad here either, but yeah, and all of that to say that has made me in a better position to be able to like invest in my future, whether it's with, you know, being able to afford going to do a master's program right now, or being able to like save and invest and like, you know, get exposure to the stock market and like other areas that are worthwhile to be investing in. And what it really always comes down to me is like opportunity cost of those things, right? So it's like I could buy this thing that I don't really want, you know, if I really think about it, that I don't really need, that like won't actually make my life any better. Or I could take this money and put it in the stock market, and a few years from now maybe have enough money to like put a down payment on a house and like move into my own house. You know, like maybe I get married and I can do that at, you know, 28 instead of like a lot of people have trouble being able to like afford a house or be able to afford anything like that. You know what I mean? Like that sort of stuff. And so it's really just like, if you sit down and think things through and ask yourself, sort of like you're in a negotiation with yourself, it's like, what do I actually want and what would actually be good for me? And I have these impulses towards this, and I'm going to think through that and be like, do I want that? Yeah. If you do, buy it. You know what I mean? Like I just showing you a goofy little purchase I made is a floating plant pot. I'm so excited for it to get here. Little floating, like I got a couple little floating plant pots to put up around my place. And that's the kind of thing. It's like, if you want it, it's not like don't buy the things that you don't want, but it's like think through and negotiate yourself what you actually want. Consider the opportunity cost of these things, and then make the decision accordingly, I guess. Dang, bro. You like answered every single question I had in my notes for minimalism. But I think the question is because, you know, we talk about benefits, and, you know, there's multiple benefits with doing a certain sacrifice and really trying to achieve a future goal. So I guess I have two questions. The first question is, did you have a specific goal in mind that enabled you to jump into minimalism? And then also, what was the struggle, even though there are benefits to minimalism, what was the struggles you faced that you were able to overcome through this journey of pursuing a minimalistic lifestyle? I think the specific goal in mind for me was, I guess almost 2 years ago now, at the end of 2018. Yeah, we were, and this is right when we like became started hanging out a lot. A couple years back, which is kind of crazy to think about. That's insane. Yeah, but in 2018, I went through like a rough patch of sorts in life. Had a few things that just like didn't go so well, and it was a little bit of a sharp awakening to like the fact that when there are things that are not going really bad all the time, like, that's a blessing. Yeah. Like that's great news. If you're in a place in life where like nothing has gone really bad in a year, which is where I'm at right now, by the way, it's like, oh, this is awesome. Yeah. Because things go bad all the time. You know what I mean? Like that is like life. And you know, true, bro. Whether you look at it from like the scientific perspective of like entropy, is that like you know, things deteriorate over time, or like there's like this Buddhist philosophy of like that life is suffering is one of like the core tenets of like Buddhism. And it's an interesting initial concept to talk about, you know, of like, oh, okay, like life is suffering, but it sounds really, really, really pessimistic, I guess, is in a way, you know. But you also like like it makes you really grateful when you're like, oh, this is abnormal that things are going well right now,
Yeah.
you know? So all that to say, yeah, like I was coming out of like a rough patch in life, you know,
Yeah.
in 2018, and things had been going wrong, and I felt like I was not adequately prepared to deal with those things, or in fact, I was just barely prepared enough to like get by. You know what I mean? Like I just, like I got like was in like didn't get paid for some work that I did. Had just broken my ankle and like couldn't be working as much. Like someone had, my car was sitting out in front of my place and it like got cut. We're talking in the span of like a week and a half. Like a few things went like really wrong where it's like, ooh, I just lost like $5,000. That's a ton of money, you know. Like
Dang.
I had to fix my car. There was I'd been working in this wedding business and this dude just like screwed a bunch of people over, disappeared with a bunch of money, like screwed. Like it was unfortunate because I missed out on a few grand of payment for these things, but there were like wives who didn't get like photos for their wedding. They were like, it was like really like as far as things go, there were way worse people in this situation than me for sure. But there's a combination of things. I'm all stressed about it, right? I go to the gym, break my ankle playing basketball, and I was just like. And it was a wake up call to me in that I was not prepared enough for things to go wrong, essentially. So the goal for me coming out of that was like, and I to answer your question after all that, I feel like it is useful to have a goal. For me at that point in time, it was just like, I need to be better prepared for things to go wrong because of course things are going to go wrong sometimes. And a lot of things might go wrong at the same time. And at this time I was like shooting videos and doing photos like full time, you know? And breaking my ankle it was like, okay, I need to like diversify my usefulness right now because I can't be walking around with a camera. So yeah, I think having a goal in mind can help, but you don't need to have one. Your goal in mind could be like, I want my life to be better. Because it would be good for me if my life was better. And that's like as good as a goal you could possibly need, you know, to make some changes. So yeah, I would say that, for me, minimalism was like a piece in the adjustments I was making in my life, and it was more so just, especially in a place in life where I was like, yeah, like the depression, anxiety aspect. It was just like bringing that in was that combined with like taking care of my body well and like taking care of my mind well and like my spirit well, like. Yeah, I just decided, hey, this sucks to not do as good as I could do it, and maybe I should just try and do it a little bit better.
So here's a question. Do you think the struggles of transitioning into minimalistic life... Okay, here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the struggles you faced during your minimalistic lifestyle were easier to face compared to the struggles you faced before you jumped into that lifestyle?
I think I was better equipped to be handling them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think like my like mental place that I was in was a better, healthier place. Yeah, and like I said, I almost feel like I guess I feel almost like a little bit of like imposter syndrome to like call myself a minimalist, because I like pure minimalist, but I guess it is quite a relative term. When you say it, I like part of me like pushes back. Is like, well, I'm not like, I got a drum set over there and I got like 6 guitars.
But
you know,
wait.
But I get what you're saying.
Dude, we live in Los Angeles, and like for me, I live in a studio. I have X, Y, and Z. I buy. I'm gonna put myself on the spot right now, but I buy a lot of things that I just don't need, and I'm paying rent for a place that I just don't need to be spending that much money on. Right. And for you to just be like, you know what? I don't give an F if a girl comes over.
Right, yo. I live in a 400 square foot apartment, dog. Dude, and that's like that's cheap. All, and it feels and it's affordable. Yeah, and I'm able to like put money in places that are really like significantly more meaningful to me than like being like, oh, I have a second bedroom in my place. That's cool.
For that money, even what you just said right there, where like, oh, I have money now where I could place in these specific pockets. Did you have those specific pockets in mind before you moved in?
Absolutely.
Or did you, or did you find out about these pockets once you? Because sometimes, like, as a content creator, I feel. Me personally, in my own journey, a lot of the times I'm like, well, I got given X amount of money and I don't know what the F to do with it. So I might as well just spend it on this cool bike or this cool pair of sneakers.
Right.
Whereas like, you know, you cut down your expenses, but you also you invested your money rather than saving it.
Right.
So can you talk more about that?
Yeah. So for me, it really comes down to, I think most people, this is a little bit of a, I don't know, maybe a crazy statement, but I think most people don't think about their lives very often, if at all. Mm-hmm. You know, I think your normal average person has a really short-term view of what they plan for. Yeah. You know, and most people don't sit down and develop like a 3 to 5 year plan, or even like a 20-year plan or a 30-year plan, which, you know, developing a 15-year plan, it's like, yeah, good luck, because you know nothing right now. You know what I mean? It's like, you think you know what you want, but probably a lot of things in life are going to change over the course of that time. So, but I would say even developing like a 3 to 5 year plan and thinking about like, okay, this is where I'm at, and this is really, like ask yourself, like, what are the things that I would want in life that would make me feel like I'd been spending my time well, you know, like what would like future Sebastian or like future Jake look back and be like, ooh, I'm really glad you did that, instead of that other thing you were thinking of maybe doing with the next 3 to 5 years that could have been a total waste, you know?
So do you think there's a sense of patience that is needed to do this type of lifestyle?
Oh yeah. Yo, patience. It's like so I'm a personal trainer too, right? And patience is something I talk to my clients about all the time, you know, where it's like, it's all about, it's like macro, what I call it, micro hustle, like macro patience, right? That's like, I think Gary Vee talks about that a lot. I've heard, I mean, people talk about that all the time, but with my clients, I'm always like, yo, we are disciplined and we're consistent, and we show up 5 days a week or 3 days a week or whatever, you know, the person I'm working with is, and that's what it's about. But then there's like this patience that comes with it. It's like, yo, you didn't get 100 pounds overweight in a month, and you're not going to get like back to the weight that you desire to be in a month. It's not going to happen, you know? And do not expect that. Because if you expect that, and this goes for like a lot of different areas of life for sure, but it's like, don't expect to be perfect tomorrow. If you have a specific goal in mind, like for me, something I'm working on right now is like doing a better job of getting my homework done in a timely fashion, on time. I'm behind in 2 papers for my master's program right now. Your example student here. But part of it for me was like, yo, I'm not going to like set a goal of I need to finish these 2 papers tomorrow because I know that I won't, you know? And so instead I'd rather set up have realistic expectations, realistic time frames, and be like, yo, tomorrow I could and would probably work on this for like 2.5 hours.
Sorry to interrupt, but do you think that's a reason that so many people get discouraged from like whether they do New Year's goals or?
I think people set too big of goals.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's really, I think that there's a lot of utility in setting big goals and like having big aspirations. Of course, that's like a great thing. Everybody says like dream big, and something you might like hear a lot in like the self-help world or whatever is like set these these like massive expectations and dreams, and it's not a bad thing necessarily, but I think something that hampers people from like reaching real success is doing that and then feeling like they're a failure all the time because they're not executing on these massive goals well. And especially if you're in a place where you're not doing what you want to be doing, it's like figure out how to do. There's this analogy Jordan Peterson gives that I think is a really useful one in this. It's where he talks about like if you have a stack of papers on your desk that's been sitting there for the past 2 months, like, and you haven't, and you know you need to work on it, you haven't worked on it yet, pull it out, set it in front of you, and see if you could look through it. Just like look through it for like 30 seconds. And maybe you'll come across some stuff that you realize like is not that important, you could pull out and get rid of, and the stack's gonna be a little smaller. And if you haven't been working on it for the past 2 months, knowing you need to work on it, that's better than doing nothing. So like, it might sound like too small of a goal, you know, like I feel like in a way it's like you need to have some extreme humility to be like, yo, let's say it's working out. I haven't been working out for 2 years. Tomorrow, I'm going to go walk around the block for 5 minutes and I'm going to come back inside, because that's better than doing nothing. Like with my clients is a similar thing. It's like if you've been working out 0 days a week, what do you think you could do? Could you do 2? No. You probably could do 2, by the way. But could you do 2? No, let's do 1. Could you do 5? No, let's do 3. 2. Like let's figure out what. Works. It's like don't try to be perfect tomorrow. Try and be better.
So
tomorrow.
Essentially, it's kind of like saying, okay, it's not bad to have big goals, but set realistic goals that lead to that big goal.
Yeah, tiny goals is I don't want to mention it, but I'm excited about it, so I'm going to mention it. I'm writing 2 books right now, and one of them is called Tiny Goals.
Let's go.
And that's really a big part of the premise for the book is being like, yo, you got to get super humble and like set some really small goals that you could and would and knew you should execute on, and then do them. And it's really derivative of exposure therapy and psychology that I'm like learning about in my program and everything. But that's set up on like, what's this, if somebody's dealing with OCD, let's say, or OCD, if somebody's dealing with that and they have some routines or like triggers, things that they're doing over and over, what you don't do is like try and get them to stop it. You try and say, how much of this stimulus that you're reacting to could you handle without reacting to it? What's the smallest amount that you could handle, and then we're going to do that. And then like maybe you can handle that, and maybe you can't, and we're going to make it smaller. But if you can, maybe you could handle a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. And what happens is people don't get
overwhelmed.
Yes, they don't get overwhelmed, but it's not necessarily that they lose the impulse to like perform these routines that they do, or whatever form their OCD takes place. It's not necessarily that they lose the impulse, but they get better at controlling it.
Wow.
That's the difference that happens, and that can be applied to agoraphobia, like the fear of like, some people have like agoraphobic thinking. People, it's like they tend to think very catastrophically, so they might not even like walk outside. They might be afraid to get in their car. They might be afraid to go to the grocery store, and so if somebody's afraid to go to the grocery store, same thing. You say like, could you get out your car? Could you drive there?
Yeah.
Great. Could you drive there and get out of your car and walk around outside and get back in and go home? And like,
and those
that's
are like the small goals.
Right. So it's like, just setting up that whole thing in the framework of your life, and the framework of whatever framework that you're working towards, like whatever things you're working towards, set it up with that in mind, in a way,
That's sick, bro. Actually, I wanted to talk about this because you were just mentioning about how you're a trainer and you have to be realistic with your clients, and you have to also set this bar of patience with them. For me, I really applaud you on being a personal trainer, because I think it takes a lot of patience, but also you need a wide range of knowledge within communication, because you have different clients. And so I guess one of the questions I have, even with talking with so many different people, what have you learned from communication and how to communicate to others in your job of personal training? How do you communicate goals to them? How do you communicate mindsets? How do you tap into different mindsets and know how to reach that level of understanding where maybe person B will listen to that goal and be like, I don't know how to get to that. But if you explain it to person A, they'll understand. But you just have to explain to person B in a different way to understand that goal objective.
Right.
So I guess the next question is, how do you communicate to different mindsets?
What you said, like between person A, person B, one of the most important things I would say is two things come to mind first. One is like, don't assume the person that you're talking to is operating from the same basis of information that you have. So of course, people have varying levels of knowledge on different things. So one, don't assume that they know what you might know about a specific topic. Two is that get to know what they know. That's a really important thing, because some people know more, some people know less. Some people know more about different areas and are less educated. Some people know a lot about nutrition, less about let's say like powerlifting, and vice versa, and different things like that. So I think it's really important, one, to like ask questions, get to know where that person's at, so that you can figure out like the gaps that you need to fill maybe in knowledge, first and foremost. And then understanding like, it's really important to understand the person, I guess, understanding their temperament, maybe understand their insecurities in the areas like they're more confident in. And then I think make people make people feel heard, make people feel understood, make it clear to them that that, make it clear to them, maybe most importantly, that like, I'm on your team, bro.
Dude.
Like, I'm on your team.
Let's
I'm
go.
on your team. So like, and you should be on your team too. So and a really important part of the training stuff as well, and in life as in general, whether you're like a therapist, like this applies to psychology and training, in relationships and anything, is like I need them to be honest with me so that I can help. Yeah. And significantly more importantly than that is they need to be honest with themselves so that they can help.
Have you met people that aren't honest with themselves?
Almost all people are not like as honest with themselves as they know they should be. Wow. You know, there's yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like yes.
And that
yes,
goes for
like,
both of us.
And that goes for both of us. That goes for and you don't become someone who is like super honest with yourself on accident. Yeah. So if you haven't been intentional about trying to do that, about being honest with everybody in your life and being honest with yourself about everything always, like it will not happen on accident. You need to listen, you need to observe yourself like you're a third party observing your thoughts and think like is that true? I just thought this and I have this impulse. Is that true? Sometimes we like want to do things in relationships, you know, say like if you get upset with somebody and you get angry and you like want to yell at them, like you in a moment like that, you can observe yourself as a third party, as a viewer, and be like, would that actually be good for me? Is that something I actually want to do? I know I think I want to do that right now, but do I actually want to do that? Yeah. You know? And if you're willing to, and the same thing applies when you're like, ooh, I want to eat this cookie, let's say. You know what I mean? It's like, do I actually want to eat this cookie? Maybe you do. Yes. But maybe you actually don't want to eat it. Maybe you think like, I would be happier and better off if I don't want to eat this cookie. And not to make like eating a cookie such like a serious life question, but it really in that way, it's like it bleeds over into everything. It's like people don't think through and be fully honest with themselves about what they want and what they don't, and then like act accordingly. Bro, you know?
I actually want to ask you this, because even going back to the concept of being honest with yourself, do you think the definition of being honest with yourself, like if someone were to say, I'm honest with myself, if they were truly living that out, does that definition of living it out require action? Because I know sometimes I know what I need and I know what is best for me, but I'm not acting upon it.
Right.
What's actually being honest with yourself in a certain sense?
There's an idea.
Or maybe it's emotionally aware.
I think it's a couple things. One, I think there are lower level areas where you know it to be true. Yeah. People, and the more you do it, the harder it is to recognize yourself doing that, of like pushing back things that you know to be true. And so in a weird way, it's like connected to the same muscle of like waking up when you want to wake up. You know, I feel like that's like being honest with yourself, is being like, I've decided I want to wake up at this time, so I'm going to wake up at this time, you know, like, cause that's what I decided I wanted to do. And like, you know, or I've decided I want to go on a run now, and I know I actually want to go on a run. Yeah. Like not maybe cause you feel like it, but it's like, I want that because I've thought this through and I know it's what would be best for me. Wow. You know, so it's like in that capacity. Yeah, I think that's one way to know that you're doing that. I forgot the other thing I was going to say, so that's one way.
No, dude, that's perfect, because yeah, I think for me personally, there's a lot of things that I know I need to work on, but I don't act upon.
Right. And that's true for everyone, by the way. And if you don't think that that's true for you, you're lying to yourself. Honestly, you know, it's like,
hey, this is a tough talk. Let's go.
Right. I'm just going after these kids. They're like, ooh, ouch, I didn't need you to hurt my feelings on this podcast.
Like, I want to listen to this podcast just to feel better about myself.
No, yeah, but here's an interesting one. And part of this stuff sounds so negative in some ways.
Yeah.
But
it's being real.
Right. It's being real, and I also think that I've heard it phrased in a way similar to this. Is that once you confront the tragedy of who you are, you like recognize the opportunity and the potential of who you could be, and the pain of confronting that tragedy, I promise, will be outweighed by the benefits of, once you've recognized those things, that like painful honesty, you know, that sometimes can be like really uncomfortable and make you upset, like, because it should make you upset. Yeah. Like, that's like the first step in like making the adjustments to like make your life better. And yeah, and I see that in a lot of different areas. Again, with personal training, another place you see that is once someone is, sometimes people are willing to be honest with themselves, like, I am doing all the things right that I should be doing to lose weight, and I'm just not.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're probably not.
Yeah.
You're probably not.
Yeah.
I'm not, and it's my career, dog. So you're probably not doing all of them perfect, by the way. I can promise you you're not. And if you can get someone to admit that, then you can say, okay, so what are we doing that's not perfect? You know, and you can like walk through that process, like, okay, like you have, not to get too into fitness, but yeah, like, yeah, you got your basal metabolic rate, you have your caloric intake for the day, you have your like physical output. Let's add these things together. Let's figure out a formula to head where you want to go. And a lot of times you're not able to like find the true answers to these things if you're not willing to be really specific about it. Yeah, it's like you can't make anything better that you're not really specific about.
Do you think when you need to be specific with yourself, there needs to be a level of tragedy that needs to be faced? So
yes, unless you're perfect, and you're not perfect, by the way. Nobody is. So there is.
He's going in.
So there's some level of tragedy to be faced, and for some people, it will of course be worse than others. Some people are more.
Do you think most people make it like, I don't know, like Elon Musk or whoever it is? Do you think? Because I feel like there's always that parable of the person who is trying to achieve this goal in any movie or story that a tragedy hits, and then the person ends up wanting to find a motive to fight that tragedy and reach where they want to be. Do you think? So I guess what I'm trying to say is, do you feel like for someone who, like, if I didn't deal with tragedy, do you think my level of success would be different to someone who did deal with tragedy?
Oh, interesting. Not necessarily. I think that for every tragedy that comes through somebody's life, there is like an equal gain to be had from it. Okay. So if you look for it, if you search for it, and if you find it, and maybe that's not true. I think that is maybe true for tragedies. It might not be as much true for like malevolent acts, right? So, and I think that there's a difference between those two things. Like they're not all evil. Maybe that applies to, but like tragedy, like unfortunate things that happen, a lot of times there are. For me, again, another thing like maybe reference is like the quote unquote tragedy, the like mini tragedy of like growing up in a family where like just because of how it was, we like didn't have like a lot of money to get by. Yeah, to get by. I like, you know, I grew up, I never like had to pay for college on my own, had to like buy my own car, like buy my like clothes or whatever, you know, whatever stuff. And by the way, like I always had a roof over my head. I always knew that there was going to be food on the table that night. And that's like not as a thing that everybody knows. You know what I mean? Like it's like in my world, like because I grew up in a wealthier area, like I felt disproportionately, like, you know, as far as the distribution of like people in my area, I was much further to the low side. But if you dropped me in like where my dad grew up, you know, in like South Central, like in like, you know, like the hood of LA kind of thing, it's like, oh yeah, I like, you know, relative to other places. Or growing up, I used to go to Tijuana all the time. And I remember for me, that was like a really valuable thing for me because it was like, yeah, very eye-opening. Like this is unfortunate in some ways that like I don't have the things I want, but also like I had friends who were like, yeah, I lived on the street with my brother like till I was 8 years old. Wow. And it's like, oh yeah. So all of that to say, like, I'm tempering the like tragedy is a funny word to use for it, but the quote unquote tragedy of growing up with like a lot less than other people had around me, the benefit of that was what I was sort of explaining with like,
it's a driving force.
I can be really comfortable now with a lot less. And what that does for me is like, yo, I can make a budget off of like a couple grand a month or even less than that really, and be able to put the rest of my income into places that are significantly more meaningful to me, instead of being like, ooh, I need to like afford my $500 a month car payment because I've always had a nice car and I always need to have a nice car, or oh, I need to afford like,
and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Well, there's nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it if you can afford it.
Yeah.
If you can afford it, it's like, yeah, have a nice car. That's what money's for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, money is to do things that make your life better. But if you can't afford it, if you're someone who's like living month to month,
why would you put yourself through that?
And like doesn't need any more financial stressors than you have already, it's a bad idea. Don't do that.
Smart. That's
if you're
so
doing that,
smart.
sell your car. I'm gonna get Dave Ramsey on everybody over here, but it's like, but that's the thing, is I guess what the point I was trying to make is that there are oftentimes benefits if you're willing to realize them. Sorry, I got a little alarm going off. There's benefits if you're willing to acknowledge them and realize them, like to a lot of the things that may appear to you to be unfortunate at the time, that are likely unfortunate at the time. You know what I mean? But there's like another side of that.
It's so true. Like all the things that you've said, like there's just so like, I don't know. I just, the reason I talk about this right now and I want to share this is because I wish I knew better when I was younger. And it's not that my parents didn't tell me.
We certainly all do.
I was just ignorant to my parents.
Right.
I was just ignorant to the rules and stuff.
Right.
But there's a couple of things I actually want. There's another topic I actually really want to talk about right now.
Okay.
Because this is something that I bonded with you, and I think that is very important for other people to learn and somewhat experience also. But like you said before, you're a fitness trainer and you really enjoy like training people and communicating goals to them, but you also like challenges. How do people enjoy challenges? Because I remember the first time that I hung out with you, like really got to know you. I was like, I'm running a half marathon. You want to run it with me? And you were like, yeah, sure. And I was like, wait,
whatever,
what? I was like, you want to do it? You're like, yeah, I'm down. And you're like, you had a knee injury, right? You had a foot injury or something like that?
I think I was coming off the broken ankle at the time,
bro, and that's crazy. So I guess the one thing I guess what I want to ask right now is, first off, because you ran this half marathon, what intrigues you about a challenge, and what should a challenge intrigue others to do, or why should people strive for challenges in their lives?
I think that like life is full of difficult things,
right?
I guess. And that's like a precondition to existing, is that you have to deal with difficult things. Again, it's like that's like the presuppositions of a lot of philosophers of like, ancient Eastern philosophy and most philosophies in general, that have like lasted through millennia, I guess. And so if there's like a lot of really, really difficult things that I'm going to have to do in my life, because of course there will be, like, I should get good at doing difficult things. And I think that doing something like running a half marathon, doing something like, I find the easiest place for me to find these challenges are like physical challenges, but also
Same.
but also there's like mental challenges, and that's what like meditation is to me, is like in this age of man, we have stimulus up the wazoo everywhere of like, mental stimuli, where like we wake up, we're on our phone, we're listening to music, we're listening to podcasts, blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot of great things about that, by the way. Yeah. There's like a lot of really, really awesome things where it's like, I love that I'm taking in information almost always when I'm driving, when I'm cleaning, when I'm running, when I'm working out, when I'm like whatever, like we have the opportunity to always have this input, and it's amazing. But also but also it's really easy to like scroll through Instagram and just like, like waste your life on some of the most useless stuff. And so meditation is another example of one of these things where I feel like it's like, it's like, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to breathe for 10 minutes. That's crazy. Like, and if that horrifies you, like to think about that, because like I remember when I first heard that, it's like, and you sent a breathing exercise I did this morning, actually.
You did? Oh,
yeah,
what'd you think?
The Wim Hof one.
The Wim Hof method.
Yeah. Super exciting. Yeah.
Bro, yes. Let's explain what that is, just so they know what it is.
So I don't know it that well. You probably know more than me about it, honestly, because this is my first time doing it. But the like simplest version of it, that
basically,
you go, dude. So, this is your thing. You sent it to me. You know this answer better than I do.
Basically, what the Wim Hof method is
a form of meditation.
It's a form
it seems
of
like
meditation. I would say it's a form of meditation.
Right.
But it really concentrates on breathing, because as humans, we just breathe just to get by, not to take in and really impact our bodies.
Right.
And so I jumped into it because, like I said before, I really like, well, I didn't say it before, but I really like challenges also. And I love the challenge of running. And I think running is such a great exercise that really focuses.
It's a pure challenge.
It's so just pure. You against yourself.
Yeah.
It's not you against the next person. It's not you against, a team or whatever. It's just you against yourself and your mind, and seeing how far you could tap into it. And so, I tapped into the Wim Hof method because it really focuses on how you can really, the goal of the meditation is to see how long you can hold your breath for and see how oxygen actually can benefit you and sustain that. You're like, you know how many times like you've gone in a pool and you've been under for like 10 seconds, you're just like, and you're like,
right.
But when you try this meditation, this Wim Hof method, it really like benefits you and allows you to realize that, you know, your body's capable of taking in a lot more than
you're
used to.
Yeah, and that's what one of the most important things. Yeah, one of the most important things of doing difficult things to me, really, one of the really most important things is that, and this breathing stuff is a good example of that, is that it opens your horizons of what you're capable of, you know, and that's like so important.
Yes.
Because like you do this and you're like, oh, I could actually like breathe out all my air and not breathe for 2 minutes. Like that's crazy. I never thought I could do that.
Dude,
you know?
Same.
And with any difficult things you do, with like people that do like Ironmans or run a marathon or a half marathon, or we talked about the 4x48 challenge.
That's what I want to talk about. I really want to talk about that.
Right,
also.
Right. So that was one thing for me where if you do something like that in a list of these other things, when you do these really difficult things, it opens up your mind to like, the 4x48 challenge is you run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. And then I ended up tagging on an extra like 5.2 miles on it or whatever it was to make it, just because I wanted to call it 2 marathons in 2 days is what it was. So we ran 2 marathons in 2 days. But yeah, these like really, really difficult mental challenges, the benefit that comes from that is that you get to look back when you have something else going on and you're like, yo, I did that. I ran like 52 whatever miles in a day, like, or in 2 days. Like I could write this paper.
Yeah.
I could sit down here. If I can do the crazier things that you've done in the past, the more you have like a list of things to look back on and be like, right now I feel like helpless and useless and I like, and I don't want to do these things, but like I've done things that are 50 times harder than this. So I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do it.
Yes.
You know? And it's like when you wake up in the morning, dog, and you want to crawl back in your bed and get back into the safe, warm, soft, you know, like that whole thing.
I did that today.
Which, bro. And by the way, I did it today.
Okay.
And what I did following that was I went out and jumped in my pool, which is like 40 degrees because I was like, and the reason that it was cold, by the way, I was hyperventilating, but I was also on this like Wim Hof stuff, and I was like, let's go. But to me, and maybe a part of that I didn't get from Wim Hof stuff, but something that's super important to me is that like when I do those difficult things that are uncomfortable, you're working out that muscle of like doing things that you don't want to do that you know you should do. Yeah. And it's like that's maybe the most important muscle you could possibly work out. So when it comes to like difficult challenges, it's like go into them, go in full force, like enjoy the process. Like that's like the adventure. And then like, you are someone who's like more powerful and more useful and more like competent and more like ready to operate well in the world. It's like your identity changes with those things.
You're able to deal with it.
Yeah, man.
So I guess here's a question, and this is for our young audience because a lot of them are like our age and whatever. And
us
whatever.
Youngins.
So what did I say? And whatever. You guys matter to me.
Our age and whatever.
Yeah, but how do you? I guess the question is, how does someone? Because I think to a certain sense, people need a challenge to find goals in life. People need challenges to find purpose in life. If you're not challenging yourself, you're just kind of sitting by and living by life.
Right. And we're hardwired to need that. So we need things like that.
Bro, exactly. Like we're hardwired to work. We're not hardwired to relax all the time. We're not hardwired to just lay down and watch Netflix all day because, you know, there's days where you watch too much Netflix. Yeah, and if you think
you are, try it. Yeah, you sit down and you watch Netflix for 2 days straight, you're going to feel awful after. Yeah. You know what I mean? And if you've done that,
maybe
like
it's just us.
well, no, I think that's like a really common thing, and people have different like varying levels of tolerance to that. Maybe is a way of looking at it, but like, you need to have work reward. Yeah. I really think even it's like freedom and order, like chaos and order, the like intersection of those two things.
So what is the average person who's like, okay, you know, I know that I'm not doing what I want to do right now. How does someone find a challenge for themselves? What do people need to do to get off their butt? Get off the couch and, you know, effing just go.
Yeah, I would actually say something that's like maybe the opposite of what people would think to say is like, and to reference what we were talking about earlier, it's like pick something that's small and that you know you could and would do.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like the cool answer is like, get up off your butt and like go run 10 miles and like be, but it's like, no. Actually think about what's something you could do. There's something called the zone of proximal development or whatever it is. It's this it's a component of exposure therapy and what I was talking about earlier, where you want to find this zone of optimal. I'm forgetting what the word was.
It's okay.
But you want to find the zone where things are just difficult enough that they make you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And but not so difficult that you can't do them.
Yeah.
And so like think about that. And it's of course like in working out, there's a clear zone for that for people. It's like at 40 pounds, you can do maybe like 10 to 12 reps before like your biceps are gassed or something. You know what I mean? And so it's like you put that same framework into the direction you want to be headed, whether it's physically, mentally, spiritually, like in whatever the metrics you have of like, what's something that is just difficult enough that it makes me a little bit uncomfortable, but not so hard that it's so intimidating that I won't do it. Because if you set goals that are too big, they'll be too intimidating for you to even start. And that's like the most important part is like,
so maybe it's just like cleaning your room.
Yeah, bro, clean your room.
Dude,
yeah. Like, and
100%.
if that sounds too intimidating, clean a corner of your room.
Yeah.
Like
clean
your
bed.
desk.
Clean your bed.
Clean your bed. Yeah, make your bed. Yeah, really.
Yeah.
And you might find after that, like, ooh, I got a little bit of gas left in the tank.
Yeah.
Like,
dude,
and the more you do those things, the more like your gas capacity grows.
Yeah, no,
you know,
it's true.
like you have, you can like go further. Like you become somebody who's more capable and more competent of like,
let's go
addressing those issues. Yeah,
that's what I feel about running. I'll give you a little story right now. So last week my AirPods got stolen at the gym.
Tragic.
And I was just like, dude, what the F am I gonna do? I love like listening to music while I run.
Yeah.
And I was just like, no, I'm gonna flip this around. Like I'm gonna use this as an opportunity to challenge my mindset. And I'm just gonna run as long as I can and test my mind and see what's gonna happen. Like, because okay, so this is what I'm talking way too much about myself right now, but
bro,
this is what was
not
happening.
at all. You're probably like 6 minutes into speaking in this podcast so far,
bro. But it's just like I was like run. Okay, so I'll give you an example.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna do it tomorrow again. I'm like nervous about it, but I'm like, F it, let's do it.
Yeah.
So I was used to running 2 miles without music, and then I'd turn on my music and I'd get 3, 4, 5 miles, 6, mile 7 with with music. And last week when I had my AirPods stolen, I was so pissed, but I guess I let that fury like really like be a locomotive for me the next day, that I was like, F it, I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to see how long I can go. And I ran 6 miles without any music, There was a point where like I was like focusing on like, I was hitting mile 3 and I'm like, oh, my muscles hurt, my shins hurt. I can't breathe. I'm getting cramps. And then for some reason, I was just like, no, I'm going to meditate on my breathing right now. I'm just going to keep it up. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to use this moment to see how far my boundaries can go, because I know that, like you said, like there's that level of, you know your limit. And so try to tap in and see how far you could push that limit. So I knew my limit was...
And it might be way higher than you think it is.
Exactly, bro. And I knew my limit was 6 miles. Like I knew I could run 7 miles, but I never knew that I could run 7 miles or 6 miles without music. So it's like going a little more above of just taking out something. Even like today I was looking at an Instagram post and some girl like encouraged all runners to run without your watch, to run without a phone. Like just know the pace, know your pace, like know how your body works in like those moments. And so I don't know, bro. I just want to say, dude, that's the one thing, like I really, if there's anything I appreciate out of our friendship is your willingness to learn how to love a challenge. So I guess the last question is, how does someone learn to love a challenge? Love the idea of challenges.
I think it would be to pick challenges that have rewards that are exciting enough for you to want to do those things.
Wow.
So like,
let's go.
It's tough because there's not a specific. It's hard to find like a broad answer for all types of people for that, But I think for each person, it's if you want to really love a challenge, pick a challenge that when you finished it, it was like so exciting that you got it done, you know, and that's gonna be different for everybody, I guess.
Let's go, bro.
Yeah.
And with that, we're better together.
Yeah!
All right, we'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Jake, where can they follow you and all that stuff?
Peace out. You can follow me on Instagram, YouTube, really any of the places.
All the stuff will be down below.
Yeah, Seb's gonna be on my podcast.
Really?
You know, in a couple months. Yeah, I'm letting you know now.
Really?
When we get this thing back off the ground.
I have something to say.
Yeah, bro. Of course you do. I want to do the amount of talking I did on your podcast. I want you to do on my podcast.
For me personally, I just like love listening. Like I talked a lot in this one for sure, but I love learning from like other people's mindsets. And like I've always learned something. Like
that's
I said before from the beginning,
part of it.
Like I always learned something from you, and it, like when I leave, I'm like, let's effing do this, and
let's effing do it. Yeah.
All
so
right, we'll
Jake Roque on all those platforms.
Let's
ROQUE, ladies.
See you guys later.
Later.
Link down below.